Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, and today we are going to be talking about the 2024 Republican Party presidential primaries, a race that is ever evolving with many more candidates expected to enter into the ring ahead of the next coming months. Now, from the title of this video, I'm sure you already know that the topic I want to talk about is how the Republican field is only going to continue to expand and expand and expand. We talked about a potential matchup between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis in the last video when we talked about the Donald Trump lead that he has been seeing recently post-indictment, a consolidation around President Donald Trump. But this hasn't stopped many Republicans from, one, entering into the race, or two, making it very public that they are considering entering into the race, even against someone that they endorsed both in 2016 and in 2020. You see, where we are right now shows the Republican Party in a bit of disarray. They just lost the midterm Senate elections, they won back the House but narrowly, they had a lackluster performance, and they don't know exactly where to go now. Their last major victory was the 2016 presidential election, when they won control of the White House, retained control of the House, and retained control of the U.S. Senate, a trifecta that has now turned into a Democratic trifecta up until 2022. Now, the Republican Party has many different ways that it can go. There are so many different candidates out there that very well could be viable candidates in the general election, but the question is, how do they get there? And it doesn't exactly seem like the top-tier candidates, i.e. Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, are really going to be losing that top two spot anytime soon. But one of them, Ron DeSantis, has yet to announce his bid amongst many other Republicans that are already announced or will be soon in the next coming months. Now, of those who have already announced, we have four contenders, three of which are major contenders, ones that have some level of political prominence from their former positions: Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson, and former President Donald Trump. Nikki Haley served as the governor of South Carolina before becoming the ambassador to the United Nations under the Trump administration. Asa Hutchinson was in Congress before becoming governor of the state of Arkansas, and Donald Trump, of course, is best known for being the former president. But again, like I said, it isn't just these people. For one, I have to point out that Nikki Haley is someone who is one of Donald Trump's closest advisors and closest confidants. She is also now deciding to run against him. She said previously, back in 2021, that if Donald Trump was to run again in 2024, she would withdraw herself from the race, that she would refuse to run against her former boss. Yet, months after Donald Trump announced his re-election bid, Nikki Haley announced her presidential election. It doesn't look like those promises hold too strong. And like I said, she may have endorsed him, as did many other people. It isn't just Nikki Haley who seems to be turning on Donald Trump. You have other people that are considering running, and people who have formed exploratory committees for their presidential election bid. Senator Tim Scott, also from South Carolina, now forming this exploratory committee for a potential bid against Donald Trump, against Nikki Haley, against many people in the current race. It isn't just him, though. Right now, we know that Chris Christie is considering a 2024 bid. These are stories that have been told time and time again about these early considerations that end up being true, that end up being full-fledged campaigns. These are the early steps that people take, that politicians take, in order to run for president. So, who do we know so far? Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson, Donald Trump. Tim Scott is a near definite, considering this exploratory committee. You don't put your name out there like that. Rarely do you ever do that and actually withdraw from actually running. Elizabeth Warren did it. So many other people did it. Exploratory committees, like I said, are the early steps. And you do very much end up running. We also have Chris Christie. Ron DeSantis also very much has made it very public that he is open to the idea of running for president. He has been pushing away from many other questions and comments about it, sort of making non-answers when he's asked, will he serve out his full term as governor? Will he be running for president of the United States? Will he be on Trump's ticket? Will he go against Donald Trump? These are questions that are being raised. Mike Pompeo, also very much expected to be running in this race. Mike Pence has said that he can expect a decision soon. Chris Sununu, the same thing. There are a lot of people. And when you look at those who have met with some of Donald Trump's former advisors from 2016, who do you have? You have Chris Sununu, right? You have Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, people that publicly have spoken with donor pools, with campaign operatives, with staffers, whoever it might be. And this is known information. These things leak to the press, and we know that all of these people are considering a presidential bid. But again, it doesn't just end there too. What you see here is that there is also a number of candidates that could be potentially entering into the race. Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, propped up by the Republican Party nationally, a very well-known name, might I say, amongst many conservative circles, she reasonably could enter into the race. John Bolton said in an interview that he's open to the idea that he would run for president. He is considering a presidential bid. There are many people out there that have said, I am open to the idea of running. Now, there are people, though, that have said absolutely not, that said, you know what, I'm not going to run, I've made a decision, and I'm going to back out. Keep in mind, though, on this decline to be candidate list, Ron DeSantis used to be here. People who say they aren't going to run aren't always telling the truth to the press, because it means the moment that they open up the idea to it, their presidential race begins now. If Ron DeSantis was just a little-known governor from Florida, there wouldn't be as much research or time and investigation into him. The reason why there is because everybody knows that he wants to run for president. But as we've seen in many years past, namely Hillary Clinton, who also made a decision in 2013 to tell everyone that she was not going to run for president, it was the politically smart move, given that should she had said 3 years out in advance, I'm running for president in 2016, a lot of that opposition research, which much was already happening because everyone expected it, but I will say, a lot of the, completely toughened up force by the GOP would have been ready the moment that she officially announced. So there is a lot of behind the scenes political maneuvering, a lot of discussion amongst Republican leaders, amongst Democratic leaders about who wants to run for president and how. But specifically in this 2024 race, there is a lot of people, one, who have already decided to run, especially given that they're running against a former incumbent president. Quite crazy that we're even in this predicament, but also that many other people will be announcing soon. So, you're starting to see people take opinions on the national level, aligning themselves with Donald Trump, aligning themselves, with different people across the aisle or along the same spectrum, but really going against people amongst their own space. For example, Chris Christie going against Ron DeSantis. There's a reason for that. And there's also a question of the Veep stakes, a question of who Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis, as the top two, are currently considering to be their vice presidential nominees. And what I think is happening is that what we will find from many of these contenders is that they will refuse to attack the top two. They'll run their own race, likely knowing that they aren't going to win, but they will refuse to attack Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump, or will pick one to focus their attacks on, assuming that the opponent of them is going to win the presidential race and might tap them for vice president. What we see here is that with Donald Trump from 2016, even though Mike Pence had endorsed Ted Cruz in the Indiana primary, it wasn't too much of an endorsement, and Mike Pence was actively pursuing the vice presidential nomination spot. He didn't go on the campaign trail with Ted Cruz to the extent that you saw anybody else. He didn't get himself involved with the campaign that anybody else did, though he did vote for Ted Cruz in the primary. Beyond that, that's really it. What you are going to find here, and what we've already started to see with candidates like Nikki Haley, is that they will start to pick sides. What Nikki Haley has done is send out TV ads comparing her governor record compared to the record of that of Ron DeSantis. Why does that make any sense? Ron DeSantis isn't running for president yet. Why isn't she attacking Donald Trump? Well, many people speculate that she wants to be his vice presidential nominee. And honestly speaking, she would add to his ticket. Nikki Haley provides a level of electability that Donald Trump does not. Like I said in the beginning of this video, there are many Republicans out here who I think would make great candidates in the general election against whichever Democrat decides to run. The same reason why I think there are many Democrats out there that could be very viable candidates in the general election, including President Joe Biden. But the one candidate I think is predestined to lose, and not 100%, but at this point in time would lose should the election be held today, I think that is Donald Trump. But the problem is, the Republican Party has refused to admit, at least so it seems in the primary polling data, refused to admit that the one poison, in essence, to the electability of their party has been Donald Trump. And they keep referring back to the 2016 election, and maybe it has a lot to do with the fact they believe the 2020 election was stolen. Maybe that's the reason why they think he could be electable in the future. But if you look back at electoral history, there quite literally is nothing there that tells us that there is a strong reason that Donald Trump should be elected again, or would be able to be elected again. Look at the 2022 Senate election results. Pennsylvania was supposed to flip. Pennsylvania was supposed to stay red. What happened? It flipped blue, not only by a little. Joe Biden won the state by 1, so Democrats weren't expecting much. They won by 5. It wasn't even that close. New Hampshire, a very traditional swing state, Democrats won by 9. In Georgia, Raphael Warnock won in a state that Joe Biden won by 0.2 by 3 points. Colorado, used to be competitive in this class of Senate seats, Michael Bennet won by 15 points against what many Republicans thought was the best fielded Republican for the time, a pro-choice Republican, a moderate in every sense of the term. And Michael Bennet outperformed Joe Biden when he won by 13.5. Arizona, Mark Kelly won by 5 points. This is Arizona, a previously red state. Mark Kelly won by 2.4. Joe Biden won by 0.24, right? What you're seeing in Arizona is that it went from a narrow Biden state to a slight Kelly victory to a pretty significant Kelly victory. Nevada was supposed to flip. What happened here? Republicans dropped the ball. Why? Because the candidates they ran everywhere were bad, including in Nevada. Adam Laxalt, though, a name many people recognize and know, it's not always for good reason. So what we see in Nevada, what we see in Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, is this story that has been told for a long time. And it isn't really just that. It was the fact that Republicans also ran poor candidates in other races as well that resulted in a diversion of resources to support these candidates. J.D. Vance won by 6. This is a Trump plus 8 state. It was a redder year than 2020, yet Ohio went worse for the Republicans. What happened here? J.D. Vance was a bad candidate. Republicans spent tens of millions of dollars in this race. I never expected the Democrats to win in Ohio. I could have told you that, but Democrats did put up a very good fight. Tim Ryan did come a lot closer than many people did expect. But here's the catch. While Democrats did spend a lot of money there, they were playing defense. This was a 50-50 Senate map, the easiest map possible for any political party to win back control of the Senate. And you know what happened? Not only did Republicans not win, but they actually lost a seat. There is a common denominator here, and it starts with the initial D, and the last name initial is T, right? You have Donald Trump putting an impact. Got Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. Yes, he won, but at what cost? This 1-point margin translated in losses everywhere else. If Wisconsin was shored up, all of those resources spent there could have been spent somewhere else. If Ohio was shored up, all of those resources could have been spent somewhere else, right? Same story across many of these other states. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, New Hampshire, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. You get the point. The point is that these lackluster candidates resulted in down ballot losses for the GOP. And again, the common denominator in quite literally every single one of these losses is Donald Trump. And you look at 2020, same story. Kelly Loeffler, David Perdue, lost, right? You see Martha McSally, lost. You look at many of those close and competitive races, Donald Trump's influence was not what helped them. You look at 2018, right? Democrats did lose seats in the Senate, but many of those America First conservatives he endorsed in the primary process in 2018 in the House elections, Democrats picked up 40 seats. They picked up so many seats. They were at 235. They weren't even in the 200s prior to that election. Democrats picked up 40 seats from the GOP. Why? Because Donald Trump was unpopular. So I hope you're starting to see this clear vision picture out. But enough about Trump, and more so focusing on the remainder of these candidates. There's a lot more people who see this on the inside. I know for a fact that these Republicans running are not so disillusioned with the party that they don't know what's happening here. While Donald Trump may be winning the nomination polls, he is by far the least electable candidate on this list. The least electable candidate on this list amongst potential or already announced candidates. Kristen Nunu would do better. Glenn Youngkin would do better. Tim Scott would do better. Everybody would do better than Donald Trump with very, very, very limited and few and far between exceptions. Maybe Chris Christie could do worse. Maybe with the way that she's negatively viewed by the GOP, Liz Cheney might do worse. But at the end of the day, the voters make the ultimate decision, but many of these candidates are out here to try and win them over. The problem is, I don't know if they're going to get there, which is a very big hurdle if they want to make it to the general election. So expect the 2024 field to get a lot more crowded, more so on the Republican side. I don't imagine that many top ticket Democrats are going to decide to run, especially with this high expectation that President Biden is going to seek re-election. It'll be quite interesting if that does end up happening, but I'm very, very doubtful. I think most of our primary watching will be on the Republican side here. There are a lot of candidates that have already announced, and considering those who have already turned their backs on President Trump, those who went back on promises they made publicly or privately, I would not be shocked if more decided to jump ship from the Trump train, and decided to explore with their own presidential bids, as Tim Scott has, as Chris Christie has, as Nikki Haley has, as Asa Hutchinson has, as Ron DeSantis has, as many others will follow suit. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2024 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.